Oh, wow.
Brother, I'm going run a wild Hulk Hogan. If I like get some moment, I'll make sure it's an explosion. Cause lately I've been seeing stars, trying to kick out on this chokehold. But it's no holds barred, middle fingers like I'm Stone Cold.
What is up, everyone? We are back here with the Slap and Meat Wrestling Podcast. I'm We Too Deep, and again with me we got DJ Wavy D.
What's going on?
All right, so we're gonna have to rant a little bit about AEW. I know. I said that's my sort of New Year's resolution. I wasn't gonna complain about them that much. I can't let this one pass though. Their fans get on my nerves whenever you call out craziness that happens on their show. And this one has to come back with Darby Allin always trying to kill himself again. So when was it? It was last Wednesday?
Yep.
Yeah, last Wednesday on Dynamite. Darby Allin was a jump rope and got flung across the ring for no reason whatsoever, and bounced his neck off of the rope. And like always, when people of common sense try to call out these unnecessary spots, AEW fans come back with the same excuse of the assumption of risk. So I want to talk about this. I want you to give your opinion first, and then I'll give mine.
So when they say the assumption of risk, so I feel like we definitely need to define that between the community, because like they're using assumption of risk to cover everything. Like I've seen people in the IWC using assumption of risk for stuff like the Owen Hart tragedy. They're like, that's assumption of risk. And I'm like, from my point of view, there's assumption of risk where it's like, hey, I'm gonna be in a wrestling match, I'm gonna take some bumps, my back might hurt a little bit from falling on the mat, you know what I'm saying? My knees might hurt from constantly having to jump up and down, like there's assumption of risk that your body will see some wear and tear. But then there's also like the unnecessary risk or unnecessary danger, if you will. Like, for example, the Owen Hart tragedy was very unnecessary. Did he really need to fly in from the rafters, on the zip line? No.
Right.
And then you have, folks like Darby Allin, for example, where, this man has taken a lot of unnecessary spots, unnecessary dangerous spots that he doesn't need to. For example, like when Christian Cage gave him a suplex off the apron onto the edge of the steel steps. Like the actual step part, not the flat top, but the actual step.
Right.
Kevin Owens does a similar spot that I'm not a fan of when he gets lunged backwards and falls back first on the steps as well.
Yeah.
Like even Kevin Owens does it, so it's not just a strictly AEW thing, but it's very unfortunate that wrestlers feel like they need to do dangerous spots to get over. And and then they can't rely just purely on technical wrestling or charismatic, being charismatic and having mic skills. Like when you have to resort to being just a straight up stunt double or a stunt man, just to feel like the satisfaction of getting over. I feel like that's very unfortunate, because I think Darby Allin has the wrestling skills to where he doesn't need to be a spot fest demon or like a stunt man every single match, especially on free TV. Like if you want to bust out like a crazy stunt like at WrestleMania or Bound for Glory or All Out or whatever, your big show of the year, I can be a little more okay with that. But when you're doing just getting thrown across the ring into the ropes, mind you, those ropes are they're steel cables that are wrapped with like a coating of, I don't know whatever it is, like latex or whatever it is, a coating of something. But the rope itself is actually like steel cables,
right?
So they're not rope, but yeah. So just like Darby Allin, there's other wrestlers who fall into the category, but right now he's the topic of discussion. I just feel like you don't have to risk your life essentially. Like, he could have easily broke his neck, been paralyzed on that.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was reports that he actually is pretty banged up and pretty injured from that. And I know he says that, he doesn't want to wrestle for a long time. He just wants to get all these spots out the way, and he doesn't really care what happens to his body. But that's unfortunate. I feel like fans should support him, that he doesn't need to do this stuff to win them over.
Right, absolutely. So I agree with you. So I do agree. We do have to define terms. What is the assumption of risk? And so, for example, when I go to work, I assume that there's some sort of risk that could happen. I could trip on something, and like that's assumption of risk. The problem that I have is this, Darby Allin isn't assuming risk, he's elevating risk. He's when you're doing, so like you said, if I was a wrestler and I get in between the ropes, I'm going to assume I'm going to get hurt in some way, shape, or form. I'm going to, I'm taking a bump. Those bumps aren't easy to take. You're forcefully dropping your body onto basically steel and wood with the little padding on top of it. Like, yeah, when you take a bump, you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
The problem comes in when you elevate the risk past what is, what is safe. And so this has always been sort of my argument against the Hardys is I personally don't believe the Hardys are liked because of their in-ring ability. They're the stunt demons that do the crazy spots, and that's what we remember them for.
Yeah.
And so personally to me, that's not my style of wrestling. I don't hate Darby Allin. I think Darby Allin could be the future of AEW if he didn't have to coffin drop on everything. If he didn't have to do the adrenaline rush type spots like this. And so like you were mentioning, those ropes, I feel like a lot of wrestling fans sort of have this idea that it's a rope and it's soft and it's flexible and like you're saying, if it is a rope, it's like a tug of war rope that they cover in tape. But most companies like WWE use steel cable, and they wrap it in like electric tape or some sort of heavy duty like duct tape.
Yeah.
And so it's not like something that you can just bounce off of. And there's actually something it's called I think it's called like internal decapitation, where he's not decapitated, but you separate the spinal cord from the neck and can lead to death. Darby Allin was inches away from that happening to him. And as a wrestling fan, and this is me with anything, with sports, like football is a dangerous sport. I never want to see someone get hurt. And so if there's something, like last year when Dolphins quarterback Tua, he got hit like 4 times in the head in one game, and they took him out of the game. Like, wrestling's the only sport / entertainment method that, fans applaud people for doing reckless things. And I just feel like as a fan, my goal is to never see someone get hurt. And so my biggest problem isn't necessarily the spot, though. It was stupid. It doesn't add anything to the match. My problem is the response to it. I feel I feel AEW fans always have to come out with some sort of excuse to protect AEW as a brand. And that's not your job. Your job is to enjoy the show. And if they're doing stupid shit, call it out. And then they always, my pet peeve when it comes to the IWC is well, what about this or what about that? These what about isms of, no one complained about Carmelo Hayes and Austin Theory. And yeah, we didn't complain because one, I didn't even watch that match. But two, they stopped the match. When the spot happened, they stopped the match.
Yes.
And so, and I think you posted, I forgot which Discord you posted in, but there's a difference between doing something reckless and a botch. accidentally
Yeah,
slipping off the top rope or something like that. Botches happen. And I'm pretty certain Austin Theory was not planning on dropping himself and Carmelo Hayes on the top of their face.
yeah. Like
Like,
for example, like the spot you're talking about between Theory and Carmelo Hayes. Um, Theory has been doing that spot for like the last 3-4 months, like routinely in his
mhm,
matches, especially like his matches with Kevin Owens. If you go back and watch, where his opponent, Carmelo Hayes is sitting on the turnbuckle, Theory jumps up, does like a little like a springboard Spanish fly almost, a sitting springboard Spanish fly. I guess is the best way to put it. And essentially, they just didn't rotate fast enough, and in theory, didn't get enough bounce on it. But it's a move that he hit repeatedly. It's not like it was a one-time move that he pulled out of thin air.
mhm,
And yeah, so like that move itself, and like you said, the match got stopped right away. It wasn't like they were going against safety to the point where they're like, you might be concussed, but you got to finish the match. You got to power through.
right, right,
They were like, hey, everyone knows that this is scripted. Like accidents happen, and if an accident does happen, we have the responsibility as a professional company to make sure that you're okay and to
right,
and carry on with the show properly.
right. Absolutely. And so they'll say, you didn't complain about this, or um oh, how come nobody called out Ricochet versus, or when they do that stupid spot with Logan Paul? We called it out. Y'all just don't pay attention to the casual community. We talk about it all the time. When stupid shit happens, we call it out. We're typically the first people to call it out.
That was a nice spot, though.
It was a nice spot.
Devil's advocate, it was a nice spot. And also, oh wait, are we talking about the springboard when they met in the? Or are we talking
So
about
that one was good. Not that one. The one at
the Spanish fly on the table?
the table spot.
Yeah,
That got fucked up.
we did agree that one was very necessary. The
Um,
Spanish fly onto the table was very
yeah,
necessary.
that. But I think the problem, I don't think AEW fans understand, is that at least between us two, it's not a brand thing. Like, this isn't like brand loyalty. Like, I just want Darby Allin to be able to make it to 50 years old, if not older, and not have to be in a wheelchair.
And also,
And
in Darby's defense, we've seen matches where he shows his technical wrestling prowess. If you go, it was one of the best AEW matches I personally watched.
Mhm.
When the four pillars fail
Yeah.
forward match between MJ, Sammy, Jungle Boy, and no, was it Jungle Boy? It was MJF, Sammy,
I think it was Jungle Boy.
Darby, and Jungle Boy.
Yeah,
That was a really good match that Darby showed a lot of like good wrestling.
right. I feel though, like, in the same aspect, in the way that, like, Darby has to do like these like, how many times he coffin dropped on a coffin? Like, those spots aren't needed. They add nothing to the match, especially like you said on free TV. If this was an All Out or a Revolution, but even still, like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't feel like flinging this dude like a jump rope around the ring adds
Like
anything.
a similar move that could have had just as great impact is if he did like you said in the Discord, is if he did like the Spirit Squad. You bring him up in the air and just he comes right back down.
Right. And so I don't know. I'm tired of the whataboutisms. This isn't a brand thing. They like you brought up. They always bring up Owen. And first off, social media wasn't around back then. I wasn't alive back then, so how can I complain about Owen Hart? I will never justify Owen Hart's death. That's not justifiable at all. It was a stupid spot. But I'm not going to go back into the 90s to look at things to nitpick to justify Darby Allin almost dying. And so, yeah, I don't know. Any other response or anything other that you want to add to this conversation?
So just to add to the part where you're talking about how AEW fans feel the need to defend and protect it and whatnot, that kind of goes back to the first conversation I had when I was on your show.
Mm-hmm.
It was the tribalism episode,
right?
And that we a lot of wrestling fans feel the need to protect their brand or and whatnot. And I get it when it comes to the aspect of promoting your brand and repping your brand. You know, if you know the promotion or the company or the brand that you like and you're the biggest fan of, and they do something wrong, you kind of you should hold them accountable too, because at the end of the day, it's just if your company is doing wrong or something bad's happening and they're not being held accountable or not holding themselves accountable, that's diminishing like the quality of your brand.
Mm, yeah. Um. So next thing, same episode of Dynamite. We're teasing Sting's final match, and it's the Young Bucks
Yes.
of all people. Now, before we break down why we don't like this, because you don't like it, I don't like it. Um, Sting did get to make this choice, and so I understand wanting to do this. But I'm gonna let you go first, and then I'll give my response. What's your thoughts
So
on this match?
first and foremost, to the fans, I don't want y'all to think that I'm just an AEW basher. Um, the only reason I do have these opinions and I'm critiquing them is because I made the New Year's resolution to watch AEW more. That
Hmm.
way, I'd be more informed of what I'm talking about and more familiar with it. So I'm definitely trying to watch it more. And as someone who I got introduced to Sting during his TNA run. I wasn't alive during the I was alive. I was born in '97, but I wasn't really around for the WCW. I wasn't cognitive at that point. And Sting didn't come to WWE. That was the main thing I watched. I also did watch TNA, so I knew Sting from TNA.
Hmm.
And so I saw older Sting. Probably at that point he was his 50s at that point.
Around there, yeah.
Yeah, so I knew still having matches, still the icon, still top of the game Sting, you know. And so now seeing him in AEW and a fellow member of the Junkyard Media Group, Cody K Dog, he brought up a good point that I didn't know and that you just reiterated was that Sting is the one who's calling his matches. And Tony's given Sting the power to make his matches and make his stories pretty much. And that Cody brought up a good point that Sting hasn't been in a singles match since he's been in AEW. They've all been tag team matches, trios matches, so on and so forth. They've all been tag matches. And, that's great. I understand Sting's an old wrestler, but you would just think for your final match, you would kind of want, the attention on you. And, I know Darby's been his understudy, his protege, and it's not really in the storyline right now, but I feel like they definitely could have gotten to the point where it could have been Sting versus Darby in Sting's final match, or you could get like another legend, like a Sting versus Jeff Jarrett, or a Sting versus like some of his other peers, like a Billy Gunn or something. Someone who's kind of in that same age range, someone who has the history, the legacy, or even like Sting versus Edge, Sting versus Christian, like someone who has a legacy, who has a name. And I know the Young Bucks are big names when it comes to the independent scene and people who are fans of AEW, fans of people hardcore wrestling fans who watch New Japan, all this stuff. I get that they're fans of the Young Bucks, but if you're trying to sell Sting's last match, just from like a pure like promotional marketing standpoint, like say you want to get the quote unquote casual or the guy who watched Sting in TNA or his short run in WWE or knows him from WCW, if you want to get that casual guy to tune in to see Sting's last match, like you want it in a marquee match against another big name.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, Sting's last match, tag team against the Young Bucks. Like currently, there's no story. They still have time to build a story, but currently it's just, hey, Sting, your last match is at Revolution. They said this back in like what November, October, or whatever.
Mhm.
And during the whole time, you kind of could have been building something, but now you're what a month and a half away from the show, and you're like, hey, let's walk the Young Bucks out.
Right.
I just feel like it's at this point not great booking, not a great last match. They still have time to fix it, hopefully, but what they're previewing, what they're teasing, is not that great, from my personal opinion.
Right. So when you brought up marketing and bringing the casual fan in, I was going to bring that up. So I'll start with that. This show is in Greensboro, North Carolina. It's an hour and a half from where I live. I was contemplating going. Now, if people need to know this about me, I don't buy tickets ahead of time. I wait to the week of the show and then wait to see if when the scalpers want to just drop the ticket prices. And so I was gonna wait till the week of the show. More than likely, I was gonna go. It's Sting. I've never seen him live. He's a legend. Yeah, let me go see his last match. But then the Young Bucks walk out and immediately turn me off to even wanting to go to this show. People know me. I don't like the Young Bucks. I don't. I'm with you. It had to be maybe someone he had some sort of history with. It is in North Carolina. This is sort of Crockett country. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat still does matches in this area. You could have called him up and had him do a match against Sting. Especially if Flair's in Sting's corner. That's one of Flair's biggest rivals.
Yeah.
So, but I'm still saying, okay, if Sting's gonna go out, and this is how I guess I'm more old school in how I view wrestling. When you're retiring, you have to go out on the mat. You can't go out with your arms up. You just can't. It's just not how wrestling has ever existed. Undertaker technically was supposed to go out on his back. Roman Reigns was supposed to be his retirement match at WrestleMania 33. But then Vince McMahon kept dragging him back. Right? And so, and I'll say the same thing. I know people are like, oh, you're complaining about AEW again. I feel the same way about Edge. Edge should have left WWE on his back with either Theory or Waller or someone beating him where he could pass the torch to sort of give that boost to. And so to me, the only logical fit for Sting's last match is Darby. That's the only logical thing you could have done here. And it didn't have to be a long match. I know Sting's older, but you could have had a 5-10 minute match with the story being, you didn't even really need a storyline. This is just Darby. I want you to face me in my last match, and Darby wins and gets the torch passed from Sting to Darby, and that's all it had to be. It didn't have to be complicated. And Sting would have passed on the torch to Darby and give Darby a push towards a singles run. But instead, they do this tag team thing, and I don't know why I'm fine with the tag team if that's what they want it to do. But why the Young Bucks? There's nothing like that I know of that the Young Bucks had any history with this team. And I don't know. I feel like this is catering towards the hardcore, mark that for New Japan. And it doesn't fit personally the North Carolina audience, but just the American audience in general. I don't think the Young Bucks are as over as people would think they would be. And so I would, the Guns would have been a cool team to do this with. Or even the Acclaimed, with Billy Gunn. That would have been a cool match to see. I don't know. I'm just upset it's the Young Bucks. It makes no sense to me, like you said, to have like 5 weeks to build a story. And this just seems to me like, oh, it's the Young Bucks. I don't know. I think they got removed from their EVP role, but even still, like, I feel like whenever they need like a big spot, they always throw Kenny or the Young Bucks in it when they could put some of these other people that need, that push in these spots.
And so I know the match. So the match I'm going to bring up, I know looking back at it, it's a little frowned upon. It's a little bit of an infamous match. But when I was younger, when I was a kid watching the match, I thought it was like pretty epic. It was the HBK versus Hulk Hogan at SummerSlam match.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just thinking like, hey, why did you get like a younger dude, saying like you said, like a 5-10 minute match where it's like Sting hits all his spots, you go through like, a little memory run where he hits everything. His Stinger splashes, his Scorpion Death drops, his what's the name of his submission? Is there a certain name to it, or is it just the like the sharpshooter. Does he have a certain name for it?
Not the sharpshooter. What is the name of his finish? His
Well, I know it's the sharpshooter, but what's the name he uses
right.
for
What's
it?
the name that he uses? I don't know.
Scorpion Deathlock or something like that.
It's something like that.
Yeah, whatever I forgot what the name of it is, but yeah, like I feel like there's cool different options you could have went. You go the you get like a wrestler who just like oversells and like the crowd's hyping up Sting. It's a good thing or whatever. Even I like I'm not super traditional where like you gotta go on your back or whatever. Like it's fine to have Sting win his last match. Like he's a guy who deserves it. You know what I'm saying? Like you could have put him up against I don't know like a Sammy Guevara or just like a even a Darby or just someone like who's really good at selling and just kind of like oversell it and just have a fun thing about it. Or if you wanted to build up someone, you could have gone like maybe like a. Also, AW themselves have a lot of older talent.
Mm-hmm.
Old people, legends or whatever. Why don't you try to revive like a legend killer gimmick for one of your heels, one of your young heels? You know what I'm saying? Some guy, one of their young heels comes over and they're disrespecting Sting. And like, old man, you gotta hang it up or whatever. I'm gonna end your career. And then, he comes over, him and Sting have the match where he does all his stuff or whatever, and he beats Sting. That man will, and then you do what Roman Reigns did for the Undertaker. I beat the Undertaker at WrestleMania. I retired the Undertaker. Yada yada yada. And he just gets booed for 5-7 minutes straight, just taking in all the heat. You know what I'm saying? We've seen it play out already.
Right.
Randy Orton's done a similar gimmick where where he was the legend killer, taking out legends left and right. Roman Reigns taking out Undertaker, and it's a good way to build a young heel. Who's the young heel that they kind of could give that match to, where it's like, hey, take Sting out, retire him.
Right. I don't know if he's a heel now, but I feel like that's something like Hobbs could have done because Hobbs has a lot of he's built, but what are they doing with Hobbs? Literally nothing.
Yeah.
And so I just he it could be sort of where he's frustrated with his booking and he comes out and just takes all the old people out. Simple as that. And now you have a big heel in Hobbs.
Yeah, he starts off by taking out Sting. Right. Next him and his boys go after the Acclaim. He takes out Billy Gunn, retires Billy Gunn or whatever. And then next thing you know, he goes and takes out Paul White, retires Paul White.
Right.
Is Mark Henry still a writer or something for them? He takes out Mark Henry, retires him for good, and just goes down the list of all the.
And it doesn't even have to be in a match. It could just be he sees Mark Henry backstage and attacks him.
Exactly.
So there's ways you can get creative. I just feel that AEW's booking feels super in a way formulated, where it's insert young bucks here. And I don't think it's needed. I just don't think that they need it to be in this spot. They're losing, absolutely. And I could tell you as soon as they walked out that Sting's going to find. You just gave away the match. Sting's winning. Yeah. So
I would have been even happier with Sting versus Kenny Omega. Two big names in your promotion. I don't know. I think it's a waste opportunity.
Absolutely. All right, so we'll move on to.
I'm pretty sure you could have worked out something and called up Booker T from WWE. I'm sure you could. You threw a little money over there. I'm sure Triple H, his respect for Sting, it would have been like, yo, Booker, go ahead. You and Sting versus Jeff Jarrett and whoever, Ricky Steamboat or whatever.
Right.
Little WCW reunion or whatever.
Right. All right. So we'll move forward to some questions from Discord. Before I actually get those, I have a question that I wanted to ask you, and then I'll give my opinion on it as well. With the results of the pay-per-view this weekend for TNA's first rebranded show back as TNA, what's it called? Hard to Kill was the name of it.
Yes.
You got Nick Namath over there, Dana Brooke. I forgot what she's going by.
Ace the Elegance or something
like that. Ash, I think Ash.
Yeah. Ash the Elegance.
And then Top Dollar was over there. AJ Francis. I don't know if he's signed long term though. I think he's running just indie stuff. Okay. I think Grizzled Young Veterans are now over there. So I've seen a lot of people say that TNA is now the secondary brand, number 2, and AEW is now number 3. Do you agree with this? And should we take TNA seriously?
Um. So as far as like the problem with TNA is I can't look at them as a secondary promotion again until they revamp. Until I see it on TV every week that they
Hmm.
revamp this whole crowd situation. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like I can't take your brand as a secondary brand or secondary promotion until like I see fans in the crowd. Like you need to get out of your performance center, in front of like 200 people,
Hmm.
and like at least go back to what they were doing in Florida back in prime TNA, where they had like their home arena that
Hmm.
packed like 2,000 people or whatever it was, 800 to 2,000 people. Like it looked like a full crowd. When you're watching on TV, you can't really tell the difference.
Right.
Like it's similar to like how NXT has their live
Right.
crowd, but
Right. Right.
TNA's was even bigger.
Hmm.
And you run it out of the studio. You have people who come in like, hey, just give free tickets, not free tickets, but give tickets away to like a local college or something. Get everyone down there, like the locals. Like every Tuesday or every Wednesday. When's your show? Every
I
Thursday.
think they're on Thursday. Yeah.
Every Thursday, come down and watch TNA. Like, well, once you get like the atmosphere, and then you continue your high quality of wrestling because TNA always has
Hmm.
high quality wrestling. The storylines are a little too wacky for me personally. That they go a little wacky route sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's a little too wacky for me. But TNA always had good wrestling. Their main problem was because they never had like a great budget or like a good like strong source of income behind them. For the most part, that's why they've always been fluctuant. But if TNA can get a stable money source behind them, get a decent get a really good crowd atmosphere where like their show looks really good on TV, I'll tune
Mhm.
in Thursdays and get back into TNA. They got good talent over there.
Right.
They still got the Morrissey Machine Guns who I liked when I was younger.
Hmm.
They got Moose. They got Josh Alexander.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. And right now they're not second. I would say AEW second, even though I'm not the biggest lover of AEW. They do still put on good quality matches, um, and they do for we give them a lot of flack for a lot of shit for it, but their production wise, even though they're only like half full, when you see it on TV, they do a decent job of showing the full parts of the crowd.
Right.
So like I might like not like all their action, but their atmosphere wise, what you see on TV,
Hmm.
it looks full enough to where I can believe it or
Right.
I can enjoy it. So yeah, currently TNA is probably third.
Right. So I'm gonna agree with you on the production side of it. TNA's got a lot. There's a lot of ground to cover. They lack production wise. The stage looks like it's a house show. The Tron itself doesn't. It's small, and that works when you are in a small arena with 300 people and it's a house show. Um, but I'm with you. If you want me to take you as secondary or not even necessarily competition, but in the same boat to even discuss beating AEW, AEW's production is world class. They've done a very good job in the last few years of really going away from like the indie production into a more mainstream production. I will say though, roster wise and match quality wise, to me, TNA does better than AEW. If they could just fix the production, and I'm with you, I think they need to, even if it's going back to Universal Studios or maybe renting out Full Sail like NXT used to do um, in Florida, or even if it's just random touring. I think their home base is Nashville. There's small arenas in Nashville you can use.
Mm.
And so I do agree. They need more fans, even if it is just giving away tickets like NXT does. I don't if y'all don't know this, NXT is free to get into. I think it's first come first serve.
Hmm.
That's why it's the same people in the crowd every week. Um, and so um, I do believe from that production aspect they do need some work. But I'm very intrigued. And for those who don't know, uh, if you subscribe or if you join their like membership plan on YouTube, I think it's like $1.99 a month. You can get their TV show on YouTube. Um, and so like for me, like I don't have Access TV, and that is their other thing. They need a major network deal.
Yeah.
I know Access TV owns the company, but you're only available to like 70,000 people. You need a major network, even if it's the CW. Getting on something like that to where more people can see you. But it is on YouTube if you want to pay $1.99. It's like a 30-minute delay, so instead of 8 o'clock, it starts at 8:30. But I'm gonna start watching it on Thursdays now. I'm paying for it to see if it's interesting enough. But and then they have another plan that's like $7 where you get all the pay-per-views or whatever. After like 30 days after they air.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mean they're trying to make it accessible, but my second question with that is with all the talent that seemed to be all ex WWE, like I had the sort of conspiracy that I came up with on Saturday where this is sort of just like talent transfer and WWE has bought TNA. Do you
Okay.
see this as so like to me, you got Top Dollar, you got Ziggler, grizzled young veterans. To me, it just feels like okay, WWE is going to release all these people, buy TNA, and then sort of make it feel like. To me, it just feels like a transfer of talent. I don't know. Endeavor now owns the streaming app that TNA uses. So,
Which app is that?
so like TNA Plus or whatever it's called now.
Okay.
Endeavor's doing the streaming for their pay-per-views.
Okay.
And so I mean there's connections there that people can see that Endeavor's got an interest in TNA now. And so I could definitely see Endeavor putting money into TNA.
Okay.
And so I guess where I'm headed with this is I feel at some point, maybe not a full buyout of the company, but I definitely feel like WWE TNA will definitely start working together in the near future. I know Triple H has said he's been open to doing like a Forbidden Door type thing.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to the WWE TNA partnership or like working together or stuff like that, it's just hard to picture a full on like team up or a full on partnership just because WWE is so big and TNA is not so big to the point where WWE doesn't need TNA. Of course, if you want to please some fans or or have a big pop at a show, like when they brought Mickie James to the Rumble.
Right.
Also, correct me if I'm wrong, but when she came out, didn't they like pre-announce it that Mickie James was going to be at the Rumble?
Yeah, they pre-announced she would be there,
which I still think was really stupid.
Yeah,
I think it would be like a bigger pop, bigger moment if they didn't announce it. Her as hardcore country. She walks out with the belt, But yeah, so I do think that WWE is just too big to the point where they really don't need TNA, and also like when you look at TNA's roster, like you said, they have a lot of ex-WWE people, but like to be fair, most of them outside of Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth, or whatever, they're all pretty kind of like scraps. You know what I'm saying? Like Top Dollar, AJ Francis, really great dude. He does a lot for his community, a lot of like charitable work, a lot, like he'll give you the shirt off his back. Like he's a really dope guy, really nice guy. But like, as far as like an in-ring talent for WWE, I feel like he's not big enough to be a big man in WWE. He is not like, from what I witnessed in his matches, that great of like a crazy, technical wrestler. You know what I'm saying? So he's not, he's like kind of like stuck in a weird in-between stage. And so I like, WWE didn't give him much to work with. But yeah, so I looked at him as very expendable as far as WWE was concerned. I was never huge with Dana Brooke. I thought Dana Brooke is very expendable. I thought she was like a Natalia 2.0. And I'm not a huge fan of Natalia. Natalia's a company gal, keep her around long term. You know what I'm saying? I think Natalia should go into like a Titus O'Neil role, but that's another discussion for another day. But yeah, so I see those two as expendable. Dolph Ziggler, the writing was on the wall. Like Dolph asked for, if I'm not mistaken, asked for his release, or was told that he was going to be released like 8 months ago, and like they knew it was coming to an end. And the problem with Dolph is just he was making too much money for the role that he was playing,
Right.
and so at that point you're expendable as far as money is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you're a company guy. The crowd loves you. The fans love you. You have history here. But at the end of the day, we're giving you more money than you're bringing in at the moment. Not to his fault really, because WWE didn't really know how to use him. The crowd loved him. It's just that they never pushed him or never committed to pushing him
Right.
all the way. And Grizzly Young Veterans, I'm not familiar with their work. They're mostly a TNA group, right? I mean, NXT group.
So before they came to NXT UK, they were in, I think, Progress, which is a UK based brand WWE sort of worked with Triple
Yeah.
H did. They then came to NXT and they turned them into Schism, which I thought was, I mean, they were in title picture the entire time they were
Yeah.
there. I don't know why they wanted to leave, but
Oh yeah.
um,
I mean, so I guess from my eyes, they're also expendable. If you look through TNA's roster, you got Rich Swann, former cruiserweight in WWE. I don't think he ever won the title though, but former cruiserweight. Eric Young, who had way bigger role in TNA. He was in NXT, did some stuff, but you know, he's a TNA legend through and through.
mhm,
If you go through the roster, you see familiar names, but as far as their role in WWE, a lot of them, most of them, if not all, were very expendable. And
right.
so outside of a few
And
like legendary names like Mickey James, Gail Kim making appearances at like
mhm,
Royal Rumbles and stuff like that, or even like a Moose versus Lashley. Well,
I,
also, Moose, I feel like he's not
I,
that big outside of TNA. I feel like he's a big fish in a small pond.
yeah, yeah, I could see that. The big thing I'm really concerned with TNA is their women's division because the three biggest stars are no longer there. Mickey James is gone. I think she just signed with. She's in like a writing role in some other company. I forgot who she just signed with. Trinity's gone. More than likely coming back to
Well,
WWE.
she's about to leave. Reports say that she has some unfinished dates, so she's questionable for the Royal Rumble.
Right. And then, of course, Deanna Purrazzo's now in AEW. So their three biggest women are gone. So their women's talent is a little bit indie.
Hmm.
And so, um, yeah, I mean, you make some points, though. I think WWE is too big for or TNA at this point. It wouldn't benefit anyone.
Like a full on deal wouldn't benefit, but if you're doing like, hey, let's do a Forbidden Door where we bring in like Morrissey machine guns to face off against the New Day
Right.
at like Survivor Series, like that would be dope.
Right.
But just like a full on commitment, like
I
working
need
relationship, you know,
I need Josh Alexander in WWE as soon as possible.
he's the guy who wears the wrestling headgear,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
All right.
He's him and Moose are my favorite down there. But Moose is super like indie popular. He's not popular much outside of, but he's really good.
Oh yeah, I've seen it. He's not strong on the mic. Like he does
No,
okay for
no,
himself, but he's not very strong at all
yeah,
on the
no,
mic.
not at all. All right, so the next question. These two are from B Master. He asked some good questions here. Tell me why I should be watching WWE over all the other shows. I think this is pretty self-explanatory. I'll let you go first.
Um, so why you should watch WWE over all the other shows? I mean, I don't know, it's hard to like describe it without sounding like elitist.
Right.
I just feel like it's the best product on TV. I mean, AEW is currently built for a niche product, a niche audience, but they try to promote it to the masses.
Mm-hmm.
But their product is niche. So
Right.
I mean, like if you want, it depends on the wrestling you want to see.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to see spot fest, like no selling or spot fest, no stories. You just want to see two guys get in there and see the craziest thing that you can do in a ring. Sure, AEW might be for you. Of course, they might run one or two good storylines at a time, but like across the whole promotion, if you just want to see, I hate using like just one or like just like they're not just a spot fest, but that's like what they're kind of known for is like really top tier like good matches on free TV, but with little build up.
Mm,
And like if you don't know this character, this guy who came from GCW, but he's having one match against Kenny Omega for the world title in the main event. You're like, why is this guy getting a title match? Like I never heard of him. He's not even on your roster. It's like
right.
and TNA, again, they have an in ring product that I would say is more similar to WWE. Of course, there's still aspects of indie stuff, but I feel like we confuse indie with cruiserweight or like indie with fast paced sometimes.
Right. Right.
So like when I look at indie spot fest, like there's a difference between I think a bunch of super kicks and do a bunch of hurricane radas, but like when you're doing like literally like Canadian Destroyer, the other guy bounced off the rope, does another Canadian Destroyer. I don't know if you saw that spot from like last week or something.
Bro, yeah.
It was like you're using people's finishers as regular moves in a match, and you're
Or
like no
or
selling it.
yeah, or my favorite is the super kick like fest where like 8 people are in the ring and they just go in circles and super kick each other. I hate
Yeah.
that spot. I hate it. I hate it with a burning passion.
So
Um,
I guess to wrap it up, in terms of why you should watch WWE, I always looked at WWE as a male soap opera or a masculine soap opera,
mhm,
a tough soap opera. Saying you got a good story, people to get invested into that moves the product along week to week, and you also have matches in between that. So
mhm,
I feel like it's a great overall entertainment that most shows you could bring your child, you could bring a family to.
right,
Most, if not all, shows.
right. And so I'll add on to that. Um, yeah, I think WWE is one. It's family friendly for the most part. So you don't really have to worry about you know seeing John Moxley get stabbed in the face with 18 uh, skewers and him bleeding profusely, which some kids just don't want to see that. And I don't even want to see that. So, um, and so the family friendliness of the show, and I know that's a negative to some people in the audience who want to see a more adult product, which I think there's a place for. But and that's what I see with WWE is, if you want a family friendly uh show, well, you got Bianca Belair, you got John Cena when he shows up. But if you want storytelling, you got the Bloodline and the Judgment Day, and but if you want fast paced like uh I guess you could say spot fest, go watch NXT in the North American title picture, or the Heritage Cup. And so there's little things, little sections for each person and what their needs to watch are. And so I personally I like NXT the best, so I watch NXT. Wavy D's Team Red over here.
Yes,
Uh
sir.
and I'm sort of leaning towards Team Red a little bit. Some good stuff going on there. And there's just I don't know. I think from a production aspect, from a promo aspect, just it's the biggest thing out there, and that may be an elitist thing to say, but you, they've been at the top for 40 plus years for a reason.
Yep.
And they know what works. They've mastered it. Have there been parts in the last 20 years where it sucked? Absolutely. But for the most part, it's a consistent show. You know what you're gonna get. Like you said, it's a soap opera. There's a story you can get invested in and spend 2 to 3 hours to sort of just relax. And
Hmm.
I feel for me when I'm watching AEW, I have to do some work to watch the show. Like it's so fast paced, and there's so many people that I don't know, and I'm a little bit more hardcore, and like I know a lot of the indie guys, and there are still people on there that show up. Like, who are you? Like, I don't even know who you are. And so when I feel like I have to work to make it through your show, and yeah, I sort of that's off putting for me. So yeah, WWE to me it's just consistent, and it is the superior show. Um, I think just
Question.
Go ahead.
I forget what's the term, like, especially when it comes to movies, where they're explaining why they're doing something.
Like
Like
like a backstory or
almost that is a deposition. No, what's something position where
like
oh, go
like
ahead.
deposition.
No, not deposition. That's
Uh,
like trial stuff. Exposition. I forget. When like literally when it's like the characters are talking to each other and describing stuff, so that way we the audience know why they're doing it because they didn't show it on screen. So like instead of you seeing our relationship over the past couple of years, I'm gonna tell you right now, like, hey, we've been through a lot of stuff the last couple of years. Like, all those times.
right, like what McIntyre did on Monday with
Yes.
Cody. Yeah.
So
Is that
so
exposition? Maybe
exposition.
exposition.
Yes,
Yeah.
a lot of exposition. So AEW doesn't do the exposition work that I feel like WWE does.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you didn't watch like Monday Night Raw like 8 years ago when
Right.
Cody and Drew like were tag team champions or whatever,
Hmm.
we're doing some exposition to like catch you up on like, hey, why is it a big deal that these two guys are in the ring right now?
Right.
Or like before a match, even though how minuscule some of these wrestlers might seem, they'll give you a little 30-second video package
Hmm.
to catch up on why they're kind of important.
Right.
AEW lacks the exposition, if that's the right
I,
word.
I
Correct me in the comment
right.
section. On
I
like,
don't I don't know if it's that they lack it or if they just don't care enough. I think, and so calling him out. Shout out to Junkyard James. He sort of says, this is what he sort of says: AEW treats their fans like they're smart. I don't know if that's necessarily what they're doing because I don't think WWE treats us like we're stupid. I think WWE realizes that there's a portion of their fan base that doesn't watch every week
hmm,
and needs to be caught up. And so like AEW, like you're saying, they'll have two random guys who fought at random indie show in Japan in 2015 that no one watched, and then
hmm.
they'll put them in a match and be like, oh, they have history. Okay,
Yeah,
well,
they're
explain that history. Like,
yeah,
I don't.
they're having a random barbed wire death match on a like random Wednesday.
Right.
Like, I'm like,
I
why though?
just, yeah, and so yeah, I definitely get what you're.
Like for example, if you go back to the Homecoming Dynamite show from this past Wednesday,
Mhm.
why do we have two 8-man tag team matches? Like, do like a little something in the back, like a little promo in the back or a little backstage segment. Like even if it is like what's the name, number zero or the Brody Lee's son,
Oh,
even if
negative one. I think it's
negative
what.
one,
Yeah.
even if it's like Tony, like like negative one, his mom arriving to the arena in their car, and Tony's like, "Hey, it's good to see you again. Do you want to help me book some show? Like, or you want me,
Right.
what match do you want to see tonight? Like we're supposed to just know that negative zero booked these two random 8-man tag team matches that have nothing. Like these wrestlers have nothing going on story wise with
Right.
each other.
Yeah. AEW does tell a lot of sort of like inside jokes, like, oh, you gotta watch this random YouTube series that we do that's not affiliated
Canon,
with AEW. Yeah, it's not part of the canon. And so yeah, I just yeah, the WWE just does a lot of explaining of why things are happening. Where I feel like, I mean, TNA does that as well. Where I feel as the AEW fan base, or at least the booking, they just don't necessarily care to explain a lot of it. And maybe it's because they're not trying to book to a more casual audience. They expect their people to look it up. But
and,
I'm not going to do a Google search or a YouTube search for a random YouTube channel.
exactly.
I
And
just I don't have the time for that.
another reason WE is the must watch product, or why you should watch it over the other stuff, is I feel like a pro. I mean, some people might see it as a con, but the wrestlers you see on their TV are contracted to them. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
you're not going to
Yes.
see people from outside the promotion who aren't contracted with them, wrestling on their shows. Really, it might be a job that no one knows, but
Right.
you're not going to see like, hey, this week we're bringing Kenny to face Josh
Right.
Alexander on the main event of TNA. It's like our superstars are our superstars, so you're not
Right.
just going to see a glimpse of them and they disappear forever.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And then B Master's last question here, I actually think it's a very, very good question.
It was, yeah.
Do you think that it's better that everyone has a spot on the WrestleMania card, or do you think it's better when you had to earn your spot for the grandest stage? I'll let you start on this one as well.
So yes and no, for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great for the fans who buy tickets to go to WrestleMania, and you have a higher chance of seeing your favorite wrestler at WrestleMania. I guess from audience perspective, it's really good that there's more wrestlers on the show. And WrestleMania for the longest time was a one night event. Now for like the last five ish years, 6 years,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever it's been a 2 night event or 2 day event.
I think from 2020 till now, yeah. So about four. This would be the fourth year. It's been 2 year or 2 days.
So now it's a 2 day event, and so you have to fill the card up. And I do think WWE does a decent job throughout the year of building up talent to where like it feels like they should have a match at Mania.
Mm-hmm.
And also when you're putting more wrestlers in these matches and like they have programs leading up to WrestleMania, I think it's better than, hey, we kind of have like 6 guys who are upper mid card who should kind of be on the card, but we don't really have anything for them. But okay, fine. Let's take our top 6 like mid cards and like put them in a title match, or like a ladder match.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or like let's take everyone and put them in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal.
Right.
And the Battle Royal, I'm okay with getting rid of. Like I like stuff like that.
It's not even on WrestleMania anymore. That's the Friday before now.
So like, I feel like when it was less wrestlers, you definitely had like a hit or miss on like if a match was good, it was good, but if it was bad, it can really bring down the WrestleMania ranking or the rating. Kind of like for any show, but WrestleMania is when you want your top tier matches, your top tier talent, and I feel like a lot of wrestlers deserve to be WrestleMania because WWE tends to bring in their part timers or their legends to have a spot at WrestleMania, but then they're taking a spot from a guy who could have deserved it in the past. Saying like a guy who was busting his ass for 11 months. When these wrestlers were, just away for the year or whatever, and now you work for 11 months. You were at 10 pay-per-views, but now that we're at WrestleMania, your hard work, you're not getting like a award for it.
Right.
So now I feel it's good to have more slots for these wrestlers to fight.
Right. So with it being a 2-day event, I think I actually enjoy it a lot more. Especially if it was going to be like, I don't know if y'all remember the last WrestleMania before it went to 2 nights. It was like 7 hours long.
Yeah.
And that's incredibly too much wrestling in one night. Even when I went live at WrestleMania 33, it was like 6.5 hours, and it's fun. But then you like get out of the arena, and you're like, that was entirely too much time to be sitting there. So I definitely like it being. I know a lot of people want it back to one night. I'm fine with 2 nights. I'm sort of this mindset that the more people you can get exposure to on WrestleMania, I think that's a good thing. However, you need to have them in places that make sense.
Mm-hmm.
The Battle Royal made no sense. Every year someone won it and nothing came of it.
Yeah.
No
title match, nothing.
No title match, no nothing. And so I think there's a lot of the biggest problem is for most of the last couple 10 years or so, WWE's inflated their roster, and so even when you have 13 matches at WrestleMania, you're only using half your roster. And so I think if we could get creative and get rid of some of the legends, Stone Cold is fun, but we don't need him every year.
Yeah.
As fun as the Sami Zayn Johnny Knoxville match was, we don't need to do something like that every year. And so I think Triple H is going to do a lot better at using his current roster. And so I also don't like the idea of like you have to earn your way to WrestleMania, because we all know it's scripted. You're not earning anything. And so Um, I think if the writers and the producers do their job, you can fit, you know, the mid card and the upper card, the people that you're pushing. You can have and create good storylines for everyone on the roster.
Yeah,
And so I don't think every single person should be at WrestleMania, but here's 10 stories we've been building for the last year. We're going to culminate them all at WrestleMania. I think if you're creative enough, you can get that done.
and also if you have all these matches, say you try to book them all into one card, like not everybody's gonna get their time to shine.
Right.
So when you split amongst 2 nights, and you run a 3.5 4 hour show instead of like a 7 hour show,
Right.
like again you're giving the viewer time to digest it. So
Well,
if you're watching 13 matches in a night, you're not gonna really have time. Like you're not gonna truly
right.
digest and appreciate the what's going on in the ring.
Right. And I don't know if y'all have noticed this, but WWE the last couple months have been doing 5 match pay-per-views. I think that's sort of like the sweet spot. It gives enough, AEW does a pay-per-view and there's 14 matches on it, and it's 6 hours long. And I don't know about you, but like I sat and watched World's End, and it just felt like it would never end. And Royal Rumble is going to have the 2 Rumble matches. Uh,
Which both run at least an hour.
but yeah, it's going to have KO versus Logan Paul, the Fatal 4-Way,
Yep.
and I'm assuming they'll come up with a 5th match, probably Gunther. I would assume.
Well, no, Gunther on Raw this past week, yesterday, he declared for the Royal Rumble.
He did? Okay. So they'll probably have a 5th match somewhere that they always like to come up with. It'd probably be some sort of like battle royal or something, or
Maybe a tag team
like
championship
a tag
match.
team, something like that. But they tend to like to run 4 to 5 matches on their PLEs now. And so I have a feeling that's what WrestleMania is going to be. It's going to be like 5 matches on Saturday, 5 matches on Sunday. And so if you have 10 stories that you can build through WrestleMania, and whether it's the tag division, whatever you want to do, I feel like your job as a producer and a writer is to get the most out of your roster.
Mm-hmm.
There should be no reason that people just sit in catering.
Even if you look at this past WrestleMania 39, a lot of these matches had big buildups going into them.
Mm-hmm.
Like you look at night 1, Theory Cena
Right.
had built for like 2 months. Flair Rhea, not as much of a buildup. I think Rhea won the Royal Rumble, so she built up. Got the match. Usos versus Sami and Kevin, like year-long bloodline story with Sami Zayn.
Right.
Becky, Leah, Trish versus Damage Control. That whole thing. Seth Logan, like Logan Paul came at Seth at Elimination Chamber even before that, but he got an Elimination Chamber. Like Dominic and Ray, like going on for like months. Like if you look through the whole card, they had like a good. That's the reason why WWE is the must-watch product, is because their road to WrestleMania, you have storylines being booked going from like January up until April when they culminate.
Right.
So you have like 3 months of storytelling for like half of these matches.
Right. All right. That's all we got planned for this episode. Any final words that you would like to say before we end this?
I want to say prayers and thoughts to my boy Seth Rollins. I might be a little bit of a Seth Rollins hater sometimes, but I do appreciate his hard work and I appreciate his time and devotion to the craft. And, he is a fighting champion. He comes every week. He got banged up on Raw this past yesterday. So we're still waiting to hear the severity of that. Someone in Discord said he might be out for Mania. I don't think it's that severe. Thoughts to Cora Jade toward the ACL. So, prayers to her, speedy recovery. Remember, assumption of risk, but not unnecessary risk.
Right.
Cora Jade, freak accident. You know what I'm saying? So don't hit me with the whataboutisms.
Yeah, we don't need any of this. Oh, Charlotte tore ACL. But yeah, it's a random botch.
Yeah, she slipped off the top rope.
Right. Like, yeah, it does suck though, because Charlotte's out for Mania. Cora was probably gonna get a call up. She's out now.
Mm-hmm.
the injury bugs back in WWE. Not as bad as it was in 2016 when Triple H was world champion for some random ass reason, but
Yeah. So what's next week's show? We're doing WrestleMania. I mean, Royal Rumble predictions.
Prediction. Yep. So we'll be predicting Royal Rumble next week, and that is something I want to bring. If you're not in the Discord and we're doing a little Royal Rumble game, where you guys come in. I'll randomly assign you two numbers for each Rumble. We got like 4 or 5 people in there now, and no winner. Just no prize yet. Maybe there's a prize. I don't know. I haven't thought of anything. I'm kind of broke over here. So
between us two, we should do a little WrestleMania. I mean, the Royal Rumble predictions. Do a little friendly wager between us.
We'll see if we can get something caught up here. But yeah, Royal Rumble's next weekend. So yeah, we'll definitely be doing those predictions. But until then, thank you guys for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. Share it to all your friends, even if they don't like wrestling. We kind of break this down, make it easy for them to listen to. More for the casual audience. Join the Discord, link in the description. If you're listening on podcast networks on audio, leave a review and click follow. And until then, we'll see you on next Tuesday.
Don't forget about the junkyardmediagroup.com.
Yeah, you're right. Junkyardmediagroup.com. You can check out all of the podcasts. My brother, Junkyard James, has Beyond the Junkyard, and my sports podcast that I just started, the We Too Deep Show, is on there as well.
And your blogs, your articles.
We got some blogs. I need to do better at writing those things. But until then, check out the junkyardmediagroup.com website, and we'll see you guys next week.
Brother, I'm going run a wild Hulk Hogan. If I like get some moment.